Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Build. Now this time we're building a haunted spooky mansion, and this is part 2 of a 2-part Halloween special. You'll remember last episode we built the island using World Painter that you see before you, with the jaggedy spikes reaching out of that dark stormy ocean, and we created a platform on top of this cliff face to put down our Halloween mansion. We put down the framework for the building, got the foundations down, and built the walls too. In fact, we even built the framework for the roof. And all that's left to do now is to come back and, as you can see, like I'm doing here, coat our roof sections with dark wood planks. Now these roofs are different to the ones I usually do. They are kind of quite a lot steeper, which basically means they kind of almost appear more spooky in my mind, and a bit more sinister and a bit more gothic in design. So I simply put a layer of dark wood blocks on top of the dark stone bricks that you see here, and used dark wood steps to connect the separate layers. Now, changing the rooftop on the large tower section actually turned out to be quite tricky. With the other rooftops, I just basically put dark wood on top of dark stone brick, and that worked for those. But unfortunately, this roof here was quite fiddly, and so what I had to do was, after I put the wood over, I had to delete the wood, go back, and then actually replace the dark brick with the dark wood. But I was pretty happy with how the roof looked after I'd done it, and to expedite the process of adding a roof to the second tower you see here on the left, I simply copy and pasted the same roof we had on the tower on the right. Then with that in position, and with the steps placed down again, I was able to continue adding the upside down steps and to continue to roof these other areas on the mansion. Now, to pick up the pace, I started to use the overlay tool, and here you can see the finished product. Now, this is all the dark wood in place, so we're very close to being there with our evil haunted Halloween mansion. However, there's a few details to be ironed out. For one, we need windows, obviously, a main door, a wall around what we're going to have in the backyard, which will be a graveyard. So to start with, I wanted to modify these roofs to have these tall, sharp, steep, kind of peaked roof sections lean out and hold windows. Now, it took me a long time to nail the perfect pattern for how this roof was going to go. To start with, the incline was quite shallow, and the roof was a little bit too rounded, but that didn't work at all. So I had to go back to the drawing board and back to basics, and keep the roof nice and steep, with a climb of about 2 blocks for every layer. Then with the roof in place, I connected up dark stone brick to create a window. Now what I'm doing with the windows for this building is I'm using redstone lamps and putting levers inside them. And what that means I can do is, with all the lamps turned on, these windows in the middle of the night are going to look like they're well lit up in this large lived-in mansion. And that's going to add to the spooky glow that's going to emanate from this spooky structure. So, with the redstone lamps in place and lit up with levers, I decided to copy that design, not once, not twice, but 3 times on this roof section around the back. Now, it took me a while to get this mapped in properly so that it was nice and symmetrical, but once it was in place, I could connect it back up again, add some wooden hatches as decoration, and then move on to the lower section of our tall tower. And again, exactly the same theme that you see with the rooftop windows to the left. I kept this kind of sharp, steep, dark wood peak with the redstone lamps as the windows themselves. and this was the design that I was happy with, and I kept it identically on the other side of the tower. Then it was time to add another window on the side of this tower at the right. But there were so many windows. That's the problem with a big mansion, with a large house. You have so many rooms, and almost every room needs a window. So I found myself building nothing but windows for the longest of times. But luckily, since I was using the same design for most of the windows, I could simply copy and paste a design that I liked. I tinkered around with the formula slightly here, adding a small decorative window, but then copy and pasted the same design on the other side of this roof over here. Now this window section is held up by upside down dark wood steps, and the dark stone brick is bordered by closed wooden hatches. And wooden hatches are great, just throw on any building, any wall, and just add a little bit of depth without putting a block directly on it. And here you can see I've dug into the wall itself and added wooden fence posts and dark wood half blocks to add a bit more decoration to what's an already quite detailed manor wall. Now I wanted to redo how I'd done the front of the spooky mansion. I didn't want the door to be on the corner, I wanted instead to have a large door on the side of the wall. So that meant that the walls on the right here that I'm doing now would have windows on the ground and first floors, but the wall on the left would have a large door on the ground floor and windows across the top of the first floor. So I put a design down, copy and pasted it, and then began to get to work on building windows for the first floor. Once I was happy with how both of those looked, I copy and pasted until they were perfectly symmetrical, added some detail, and then got to work over here on our door. Now first I came out slightly with the cobblestone and cobblestone steps, dug away at the wooden logs, gave us a small kind of upside down V, and then I added a layer of lighter wood inside the door and coated the outside with wooden hatches and dark wood along the middle to create a seam between the two large Gothic doors. I then copied the same design that I had for the windows on the first floor on the right, on the wall on the left, and then began to add some detail and plan out some windows for these walls here on the right. Now again, I wanted to keep these redstone lamps for as many windows as I could, but also copy and pasting these large, sharp, peaked Gothic windows that I fell in love with so much from the first part of the build. Now we're almost complete here, but the only thing left to do is to create a nice, spooky graveyard section. So to do that, I got out the cobblestone tool and the cobblestone steps, came around this, the other side of the area we cleared out, the clearing that we left ourselves to build our spooky mansion, and began to put down the framework for our fence area. But the problem with the fencing was I couldn't be too uniform. What I needed was a nice spooky, jaggedy kind of poorly maintained fence section full of holes and gnarled kind of iron bars, jagged out and hanging out and kind of just poking out really menacingly. Something you could really catch yourself on if you were nearby and cut yourself quite badly with. So with the fence and the wall complete, I built this the plinth, which would house the main family crypt. And using mossy stone and lighter stone brick steps, I created this cool crypt at the corner of the graveyard. Now with that in position, I got out the soul sand and put out some rough, loose soil to top some of our graves. And then with those in place, I began to add some cobblestone headstones. But for the more impressive and the more kind of, loved family members, I put down stone brick headstones. Now with those in place, there were a couple more things I wanted to add to this graveyard. The first is a kind of like an angel statue. It looks kind of lame, but you don't really have many blocks to work with, and I did the best job I could. So I tried to add an angel here at the back of the graveyard, and then near the front of the graveyard I put in the framework for a spooky kind of tree with a few cobwebs added for effect. Now it's time to come around to the top tower, the tallest reaching tower, and add in that redstone lamp window effect that we've used on all the windows so far in the build. Again, filling inside there with levers, pulling them to on so that the windows stay fully lit and keep that glow effect. And then I use dark wood, dark stone brick, and upside down wooden steps to create the window ledges, and then dug into the tower slightly, added half blocks and fences to finish up the detail on the tall tower. And here we go, guys. As the moon rises on Halloween Island and the camera climbs, you can see our spooky mansion sparkling in the moonlight. Oh, now this is a pretty menacing and impressive build. Oh, look at that lightning crash in the background. Now, I'm really happy with the way the windows and the roofs turned out in this build. And going forward, I feel like I've learned a lot on how to do some Gothic builds and Gothic windows. You can see there the angel statue in the background, the spooky tree, the graves and the crypt, as we spin around and see the back of the mansion that leans over to the ocean. Almost like a lighthouse, sailors can sail out and see this spooky building on the horizon. Now you see here I've replaced some of the wall with mossy stone brick and also added some vines for a bit more decoration and some cobwebs here and there just to make the place look a little bit more spooky. But that's been it for our Halloween special of Let's Build. I hope you've enjoyed watching me build this spooky mansion on the cliff top of our haunted island. Next episode we should be getting back to Erebor and finishing off Dale before we climb deep inside the mountain itself to construct the Dwarven Fortress. So, I've been Sjin and this has been Let's Build a Spooky Haunted Mansion. Hit like and favourite and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for some more Minecraft building. Take care.